Jesper Jensen. How do Scientologists explain that men like Tom Cruise, David Miscavige, and LRH, who are supposed to have almost superhuman powers, seem to not be able to apply those powers to their own marriages? Seems like saving your marriage should not be as hard as saving the entire planet. Yeah, this is just one of those great examples where I get to point out different cult mechanisms at play and show how people can, belief is a wonderful thing. And the thing is about, specifically, you asked about Tom Cruise, David Miscavige, L. Ron Hubbard. These are opinion leader people. These are big power figures in the world of Scientology. And so they are granted that superpowers thing. Okay, so I've done a lot of videos about, answering questions about superpowers, and Scientologists really don't necessarily think that people are, lifting things with their mind or something, like they're using the force or something. I mean, it's not quite that obvious. But there's a lot of material in Scientology about suppressive people and the power and mystique of suppressive people. Because you want to talk about people who seem to have superpowers, it's the SPs, the superpower people, the suppressive people, who seem to actually be accorded more power and, ability to mess things up and screw up society, screw up whole civilizations, as well as, of course, individual relationships. So it's weird because you have these classes and attitude in Scientology about suppressives and how they are scum and low rent, just not worthy. They're just people who are just very antisocial people, and they're not able to get things done. They constantly target the wrong thing. If the tire's flat, they'll kick the cat. There's all these mistakes they're constantly making. And Hubbard said they can't even complete any action or project that they get started on. So there's all this sort of degrading or insulting language towards SPs, and yet they're also these super beings who can infiltrate marriages, get close to power figures like Tom Cruise, David Miscavige, or L. Ron Hubbard, who are basically the three biggest power players in the world of Scientology. And somehow these SPs can coddle up or slide up to these guys and sneak their way into their lives, and through flattery and lies and other deception, they can ingratiate themselves to these power figures and gradually start pulling them down, right? And this is all explained in hindsight, of course. Katie Holmes was the most wonderful wife in the world. And let's see, Nicole, right, for Tom Cruise also, right? Power, supermodel, like wonderful woman, until she wasn't, right? And then it turns out, her dad is a psychologist, and so she's a suppressive, and Scientology never worked on her, and Katie had to escape from Tom Cruise's life. That's how much of a hold he had over her. And she arranges things with her family and escapes. And somehow she's the SP. She's the suppressive on Tom Cruise's lines, is how they would put it. So who's got the superpowers there, Tom or Katie? Right? I mean, if you kind of flip the script a little bit, you can see what I'm talking about. And Scientologists cower in fear of suppressives, which is fascinating because Hubbard didn't. Hubbard's attitude about suppressives was very different than modern Scientology, at least as far as I understood it and how I got from how Hubbard acted and what Hubbard said. Hubbard was a vindictive, tough guy, and he was not interested in anybody criticizing him or giving him a hard time, and he wanted those people ruined. And he would call them SPs. Anybody who did anything against him was an SP. So he was not, he was all down with, beating him up. I always say jokingly, but I really don't know that it was such a joke that he came up with this, sort of the name for this process or this procedure called R245, where you take a .45 gun and shoot the person. He jokingly referred to it as an instant exteriorization process. In other words, you shoot somebody and they're going to pop out of their head, of course, because their body's dead. Ha ha, right? So So this is the kind of thing Hubbard would joke about. And he put a course together, or had a course put together, called the PTSSP course, which was supposed to educate Scientologists about SPs and what their characteristics are and how you spot them, and how you avoid becoming PTS to them, how you become a potential trouble source. If you're connected to a suppressive in Scientology and you're being suppressed by them, then you are a potential trouble source. And David and Tom Cruise, became a potential trouble source to both of these SPs. And I guess to some degree, Miscavige considered he was probably PTS to all the SPs around him. Miscavige is constantly haranguing about all the SPs around him and how everybody is working against him, and he's the only one who's keeping the show on the road and moving the ball down the road. So, this course, this education is supposed to arm you against this so that you can confront and shatter suppression. That's the idea. It's literally the subtitle on the course pack. PTSSP course, How to Confront and Shatter Suppression. And so how do Scientologists now do that? They run and hide. They are cowards when it comes to suppressives coming around their facilities, walking down their streets, trying to engage with them on social media. It's run away, run away, run away. And then go cower in their little social media circles or hide in their buildings and talk to each other about how powerful and amazing and wonderful and superpowered they are, and how those horrible SPs out there are such cowardly scumbags. I mean, they it's like you can really make yourself, while you're cowering in your little buildings, hiding from the world, they convince themselves, they talk amongst themselves about how great and wonderful and awesome they are. I mean, it's hilarious from a certain point of view if it wasn't so tragic and if there weren't so many abuses connected with it. So anyway, that's kind of some commentary on it. It's just cult mechanisms at play. As usual, cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias and, these things that we talk about. That's all that's going on there. And, of course, the social pressures to conform within the world of Scientology, that's really the superpower that Scientology has, is its ability to get people to conform to its silliness, even when that silliness is directly opposite in every way to what Hubbard wrote. And they convince themselves that what they're doing is exactly what Hubbard wrote. I mean, it's pretty strange. It's pretty strange. And I definitely acknowledge that. Anyway, that's what I can say about that.